yesterday that one of the books in the duology I was planning on posting, I either never reviewed it or I deleted it, and it is not a book I prefer to relive, so that is that. Thankfully, I woke up early enough today that I worked out before work because I stayed at work a little too late. So now here I am reviewing a book that I should have reviewed a week ago. And what book is that? This Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han. I am very aware that there is a TV series. I've seen like 2 of the episodes and I didn't like it. It has been probably 10 years since I've read the series, so there wasn't much that I remembered, but I knew that the series was not true to the book, which I knew going in, but there are a lot of changes that I didn't care for, so I don't plan on finishing the series. But The Summer I Turned Pretty, I wanted to do during the summer, because why not? It revolves around a teenage girl named Isabel, or Belly. She spends every summer at Cousins Beach with a woman named Susanna and her 2 boys, Jeremiah and Conrad. She also has an older brother named Stephen, and then her mother, Laurel, tends to come because she and Susanna have been best friends for ages. Belly has loved Conrad since before she could remember. This summer is her blossoming summer. As an adult, there are things in there that I'm just like, oh my gosh, like this is so dramatic and teenagery, but as a teenager or a young adult, I absolutely loved. I did think that Belly was a little annoying at times, and that the true gem of this novel was the friendship aspect, particularly between Laurel and Susanna, because slight spoiler, Susanna has cancer. She had cancer in the past. Everybody thought that had gone away, but this summer it has returned and she's not doing so well. But all of this is unbeknownst to Belly. We do see both Conrad and Jeremiah, particularly Conrad, who's always been a bit broody, acting kind of funny. And then mothers are like closeting themselves away, just doing whatever they're doing. But Belly doesn't notice any of this. And so that was something I thought is a little bit of a missed opportunity. I would have liked for Han to have dropped a couple more breadcrumbs in there, because I want a sense of Belly. Like, she seems like any other teenage girl where she's relatively self-consumed. She doesn't know that she's self-consumed, but she is. It's all about her and all about getting Conrad's attention. Meanwhile, she starts dating this other boy, but then her emotions are warring, Conrad or Cam. So she never sees what's there. And I would have liked for her to have questioned things, but from what we're given, there wasn't much for her to question. The kids go off and do their thing. The mothers go off and do their thing. There's nothing abnormal about that. It's not until the very end of the book, after Belly learns that Susanna is dying, that she's like, no wonder she wears this kind of clothing. And yeah, all the times they said they were doing this, they were actually going to the doctor. So there are certain things that she eventually puts the pieces together, but they weren't pieces that we saw and pieces for us to put together, and I enjoy that. I like when things are going on behind the scenes that we're not necessarily supposed to see, but then there's a big reveal at the end. And there wasn't much of that for the big reveal. But all of this to say, I thought the shining star was the friendship between Susanna and Laurel, and then basically Belly's friendship with the boys, including her brother, because she's always been that tag-along. She's always been the only girl and never good enough to hang out with the guys. And then all of a sudden, she's kind of the center of attention. I would have liked more of her friendship with the boys. We do get interchanging chapters in which we see the present, and then we go back to certain ages in her past that highlight whatever is happening in the present. So we do see their interaction, But particularly with Conrad, maybe I am just like a silly girl when it comes to this, or when it came to this kind of thing. But I could not speak to my crushes. I just didn't know how to act around them at all. And so in the summer I turned pretty, I wasn't quite sure where Belly stood. And maybe it's because she's loved him forever, so she's had to figure out how to live her life with him in it every single summer. But I wanted heavier balance, either on the, oh my gosh, I'm finally getting to see Conrad, I don't know what to do, I just want to impress him, and well, he's just Conrad, he's my buddy. I felt like I got this really weird mixture of the two, like, I'm in love with Conrad and I want to have his babies. Oh, but now we're gonna like horse around like old friends who have never had a romantic interest in each other. And then on that, Conrad, so Jeremiah is the guy we all know Belly should be with. He's the good guy, the sweet guy, the guy who's given her his time throughout their childhood and is basically her best friend. Conrad, though, is that bad boy that we know she shouldn't be with and that we kind of hate because he's so mean to her. But man, that sexual tension. Like, we just want them to be together. We want him to declare his undying love. Now, he's loved her his whole entire life, and now he cannot live without her. Of course he doesn't do that. And this is something I wanted more from him. I know he's always been the brooding brother, but I wanted a little bit more differentiation between his broodiness in this book and the circumstances regarding his mother and his natural broodiness, because Belly just basically thinks that Conrad is being Conrad. Maybe he's a little more surly this summer than he usually is, a little more withdrawn, but it's not out of the ordinary for him. But then somebody says, oh, well, like, you know, their parents are getting a divorce. For her, she is like, okay, so now this is why Conrad is acting up, because there are things going on at his house. And then it's like, well, actually, he's behaved this whole way because for some time he has known that his mother is dying, which I'm assuming both boys have known the entire time, but for some reason didn't want to tell Belly. Well, really the reason was Susanna didn't want Belly in particular to know. But I was like, I just felt like there was something missing with Conrad, where it's like Han does this really, really excellent job. This is such a good teenage book with all that teen angst and romance, where Belly is constantly noticing or being told, oh, well, that guy, aka Conrad, has been watching you this whole time. Conrad has his eye on you. Conrad. So you get the sense that Conrad likes her. But then whenever she expresses her feelings for him, he shuts her down. And I'm like, is he lying to her? Is he not lying to her? Like, I love the fact that he is lying to her, because that will make the whole thing sweeter when he finally declares his love. But spoiler, in the end, he doesn't really do that. They do make out on the beach, but then he basically like pushes her away. And then the very, very end, they've returned from cousins, and we don't know who it is. We just know it's one of the boys has called her up and is like, hey, I'm coming to your house. And it is Conrad. Like, we don't know what happens with her and Conrad once she gets in his car, but I wanted to know what changed his mind, because he refuses to admit his feelings for her, but he obviously has feelings for her, And then at some point he decides, I'm gonna pick her up in the middle of the night. They live like 5 hours away from each other. He's gonna drive to her house in the middle of the night and then take her somewhere. I mean, it's a great way to end the book, but I couldn't figure out how we were getting from point A to point B all the time, because we don't get Conrad's heartfelt confession. We don't get, and I mean, and it might have been out of character if we had, but we get nothing, no sort of admission about, yes, I do like you, this is just a bad time, yes, I've always liked you, it just isn't gonna work. It's basically like, it's not gonna work. I don't like you. Anyways, back to the beginning. We open with Belly and her family arriving at the summer house, and she gets out of the car. And can I just say, this is what I actually enjoy from the second book, is we get Jeremiah's perspective. So we see her here, and then in the second book, we see what he sees. And I'm like, this is what I'm talking about. Anyway, so she gets out of the car, and of course the first thing she sees is Conrad. Conrad and Jeremiah are sitting on the porch, and she registers that they're giving her like a look they've never given her. They've never looked her over like she is a female. From there, it's basically this tug of war, this kind of mission of hers to get Conrad to notice her, not in an obvious way, but just in like, I always wanted Conrad to love me, so is this gonna be the summer that he loves me? They have a lot, as I said, a lot of sexual tension. There's a lot of arguing. At some point, she goes to a party and she runs into this dude named Cam. Conrad is there, and he gets upset with her because she's like, I'm gonna leave with him. I don't really want to be here anyways. She's already jealous of a Red Sox girl, who is this girl who makes all these appearances throughout the novel, which she makes an appearance in the second novel. I've just gotten there. I do not know exactly what Conrad's relationship with her is. I think her name is Nicole. I don't know if he actually likes her, if he's using her to make Belly jealous, if they ever officially date, or if she is just somebody that he finds at parties and public events so that Belly can see it and Belly can be jealous, or he can use her to take his mind off Belly. I don't know. That's another thing about Conrad that I thought we lacked. In some ways, he felt very stereotypical. And that was something that I also had issues with, is I know that this book is not about the mothers, but I would love to have a prequel about them because their friendship was so strong. And so I would have liked some of these tertiary characters, these secondary characters, to have been fleshed out a little bit more. Jeremiah, I think, Han did a good job with, but Conrad felt like that guy that we want her to be with, but we know she shouldn't be with. And sure, at the end, we learn that all of his issues stem from the fact that his mother is dying and he cannot handle it. He does not like it. He's angry about it. But we don't really get any motivation throughout the entire novel. We don't get to know Conrad, even stemming from all these childhood flashbacks. I'm like, what is it about Conrad that you love so much? Like, who was he as a child? I wanted to see him as a child and then see him as a teenager and be like, either this is who he's always been, or how did we get from here to here? Was it just at some point he was like uber cool? Because he just seems he's perfect. Everybody wants to be him. Everybody wants to be with him. He wins at everything. I was just like, but is he really this confident? Is he really this naturally good at everything he does? She meets Cam and she says, hey, Conrad, I'm leaving with Cam. He's like, no, you're not. They get into this big thing. And then we have this really, in my opinion, uncomfortable moment in the car where Jeremiah's, no, this is a different time. Anyways, ignore that. We'll get to that later. She and Cam start dating, and I thought it was a really sweet little romance. It was a first romance for both of them, and I liked that Cam was awkward. He wasn't suave like Conrad, but he was sweet. He was a guy that made her feel special, and that's something she needed, that we all need, because Conrad is a jerk, and she needs somebody to show her value, which this other guy is never gonna give her. They're embarking on this relationship, and then there comes a time where they go to another party, and at this party, Conrad is drunk. She has gone outside to just chat with Cam. I don't know if we're supposed to believe that he got drunk because he's watching this and it's upsetting to him, so he starts drinking. But he gets into a brawl with a bigger, older guy. Belly leaves Cam to go break up this fight. And then I thought this was strange. Everybody knows that she's got something going on with one of these boys. And Cam's a smart enough dude. He understands. And so I don't know if it's this or what, but it's like he can't believe that she would leave him to go essentially rescue one of her oldest friends. Let's feel a little bit jealous here. Like she's choosing him over me, but at the same time he's about to get beaten to a pulp. So they have like a couple days silence. And I, except for the fact that they're teenagers and we just need to give them a break because that's what teenagers do. But I was just like, I don't know about this. Jeremiah realizes he left something in the house, so they are left in the car together. And Conrad starts playing with her hair. Side note here, I didn't mind the audiobook. I thought the narrator was kind of cute. But there were times where she made Belly sound so young. Belly's 15. And this narrator made her sound she was like 12. Anyways, they're in this car together. He comments about her hair and its softness. I don't remember the exact verbiage, but I was like, that made you swoon? It was not a compliment. It was like, that's the best he could do? I think he called it baby soft or something. Anyways, Han does this excellent job at creating atmosphere and suspense. Bated breath, what's gonna happen? Obviously, Jeremiah opens the door, nothing happens, but I was like, these are the things that I want to see from Conrad, his vulnerabilities, but then he acts like nothing ever happens. And that's when I then have an issue with him because, oh, right, I can accept he wants to save face. But at the same time, I'm like, is he saving face? Is he pretending like it didn't happen because he doesn't want to be vulnerable with her? Was it just because he was drunk and he was like, that's the nearest person with some pheromones? Was it he actually did not remember at all? But I wanted more vulnerable moments from Conrad just so I could get a better idea about what his mindset was and how he felt about her, because I'm convinced he loves her. And it's not even deep down. He doesn't deep down love her and not know it. He loves her. He just refuses to admit it. But I don't really think that's what it is. Like, that's the teenage girl in me wanting him to love her because she loves him and he's untouchable. So yeah, we go through the novel. Her relationship progresses with Cam. We learn that he actually had noticed her before this. They had gone to, I think it was a Latin contest or a Latin something or another in the 8th grade, and he had noticed her then. And I was like, all right, Cam, totally team Cam. I'm with you. I want her to choose you. And she continues to deny her feelings for Conrad. Eventually, they break up because Conrad brings Red Sox girl over. In retaliation, she calls Cam over, but Cam is smart enough to know what's happening here. They get into an argument, he leaves, they don't talk for a while. I mean, summer's almost over, and so they go a week, days without speaking, and she's content with that. She has no problem. He eventually does try to contact her, but she ignores it. She just lets it roll off her back. At some point, they do talk, and they come to terms with the fact that this was a great summer romance, but this is where it's going to end. And this is also around the same time that Belly learns about what's going on with Susanna. I loved Susanna. Belly's mother is very reserved. She's not emotional, and Susanna is. And so Belly has this connection with Susanna. I did want more of Laurel here because I wanted to know why she behaved and treated her children the way she did, because she must love them. It's not that she didn't love them, but she didn't show her love. And so we get more of that in the second book I'm coming to see. But I love Susanna. Although on the other hand, I wanted to see the human side of her because Belly idolizes her. And she has no faults because of this. And on one hand, that's great. Like, there's nothing wrong, because that's just unreliable narration. Like, we are seeing all these people through Belly's eyes, and to Belly, Susanna can do no wrong. But at the same time, I was like, but she can't be that perfect. She just can't be. It all boils down to the fact that this is Susanna's last summer. She is not going to survive the summer. They all have to come to terms with the fact that this is their last summer. We end with Belly. And this is something I got really annoyed with, and it is magnified tenfold in the next book. She cannot make up her mind. Belly is pretty soft. She does not have much character development, in my opinion, and I think it's because it's supposed to be an overarching over the 3 novels that she develops, but I wanted Belly to just stand firm and be like, this is how I feel about Conrad. Whether or not I want to feel this way about him, I'm done. I'm going to stand my ground until he proves to me otherwise. But she was so wishy-washy. Just, it stems from her emotions, which again comes back to her being a teenager and hormonal. I'll accept it. But it's a novel. So to some respect, on some level, I needed her to be less of a teenager. Because what if I don't read the second book? What if I don't read the third book? I need emotional resolution for Belly. And she'd be like, oh, I hate Conrad. I love Conrad. Oh, I hate Conrad. I love Conrad. She would say mean things to him. Or in my opinion, she would say true things to him, and then automatically she would backtrack, and I was just like, why are we apologizing to this guy? Yes, she approaches him on the beach. This is before she knows about Susanna. She's like, hey, it's the last time I'm gonna tell you, I love you. He doesn't answer, and she will not take that for an answer. And I'm like, just take it for an answer. I got really tired of her backtracking, be like, I'm going to lay it out, and if you don't reciprocate, then that's it. But she laid it out, he didn't reciprocate, and she would just pick until she got some kind of response. And I was just like, can you please just leave it there? Turn around and walk away with dignity? Can we have him chase after you for once? Like, I want to see what will happen if you stand your ground. They're both very upset because she continues to say things to him. He continues to say things to her. Jeremiah shows up. Those two get in a brawl. And then I think either Laurel or Susanna show up. I think it is Laurel because Susanna is back at the house. I don't know. It's been a week. Give me a break. Then we just end with her coming home and then getting a phone call, and it turns out to be from Conrad. The Summer I Turned Pretty. It's kind of everything that I think a young adult romance novel should be. But it's not necessarily heavy on the romance. Like, it's not all about crossing boundaries. It's about a first love. It's about burgeoning and starting to figure out who you are. I 100% recommend this book. It will probably drive you as crazy as it drove me, and it should. Like, I think it drove me crazy in the best sort of ways. Do I think it could have used some more development and depth? Absolutely. But we shall see what happens in the next two. Until then, have a great day. Bye.